On today's episode of Behind the Wire on Rebel Radio, we're going to be talking about how Washington State schools have completely lost their minds. Stay tuned. Welcome back. I'm your host, Robert Burwell. I'm also president of Washington 3%. Today we're going to be talking about how these schools in Washington State have completely lost their minds and feel that they have complete control over your children. They do have a lot of laws to back that up now. They've taken a lot of parental rights away, but they're even violating long-standing laws that are still in existence, and they're just doing whatever they want with your children because they believe they know best for what's your children. They know better than you. And so my advice, you're going to hear why, but my advice to anybody who has children in Washington schools right now, get them out now if you want to save your child. So our first incident we're going to talk about, it's pretty famous. You've probably all seen it, where there's this mother in Auburn, Washington. She goes down to pick up her daughter every day after school at Olympic Junior High in Auburn. And she shows up that day. This is a couple weeks ago now. She shows up, and all the students are out in the streets protesting against ICE, doing an anti-ICE protest. They're all out in the streets, and all their teachers are out there basically coordinating the whole protest. The mother, who's a conservative, she's pretty upset about this. She feels like, most people with a functioning brain in the state feel that your children are at school to learn how to read, how to do math, how to, learn history. All things are going to need to function as an adult in our society. But these teachers in this state don't feel that. They feel that they should be pushing their own personal political beliefs on their students and indoctrinating them into their socialist groupthink. Now, this mother, she gets out, she sees a protest, she films this whole thing. She goes into the office, and she goes up to the secretary, and she immediately tells the lady behind the desk, I want to withdraw my daughter out of this school district now. And the lady's like, I don't, she didn't really know what to say. And the mother says, I need you to get my daughter right now, because her daughter did not participate in the protest. She was in the library with some of her friends who didn't feel they should be out there doing that. And she asked the lady behind the desk, go get my daughter now. And the lady says, that'll take a few minutes because all of our teachers are outside. So all the teachers are outside taking part in this protest with their students, while I guess the students who didn't want to participate were just left in the school with nobody to watch over them or make sure they weren't doing anything they weren't supposed to do. So, because protesting is more important than making sure we know where all the students are, right? Anyways, then the principal comes out, and he says, well, can we go back to my office and talk about this? And the mother tells him, no, she's gone, right? Mother gets her daughter, she leaves, and there's been a GoFundMe that people start up for her to help her pay for private school for her daughter. But this lady did actually pull her daughter out of the Auburn school district. The Auburn superintendent called her up, wanted to talk. She says, sorry, I'm too busy doing interviews with the media to talk to you, which I think was just awesome. But yeah, like I said, school's job, number one, is not to indoctrinate your children. Your school's job is to teach them the subjects that they are hired to teach, whether they're a math teacher, a music teacher, whatever. They're only supposed to teach that subject, not indoctrinate your children, not tell your children what their personal political beliefs are, or any beliefs at all, really. They're only there to teach that subject. But this is not an isolated case. We had another case. This happened in Seattle. Father was at work. I guess he was at work. I don't know. He got a phone call from his son. His son says, the school's taking us out to protest against ICE. And of course, the son, he thought it was BS, but, he had to go. So he went. And not only did they have the students out there protesting, okay, but unlike the Olympic middle school protests where they were just on the street, out in the street in front of the school, this school, and I'm not sure which school it was, he didn't say, and I didn't go read up on it because I'm sure you've all heard about this anyways, but they took them off of the school grounds, marched them down to White Center, where they participated in a protest. And fortunately, by the time the father got to school, they were back. But number one, White Center is not a safe place. Okay, never has been my entire life. I've lived here since I was born, except for when I was in the military. I've lived in Washington State. White Center's never been a very safe place. I mean, let's just be honest and real here. And these teachers, this school, took all their students, marched them down to White Center to do an anti-ICE protest. No permission slips were sent home with the kids for parents to approve taking the children off of school grounds. Okay? That is a requirement. Schools cannot take students off of school grounds without a signed permission slip from the parents. Okay? They violated their own Washington law. They took them off school grounds without parental permission. If something would have happened to one of those children, they would have been sued into oblivion. And, personally, I think the principal and every teacher in that school that participated and pushed this needs to be fired immediately. They're not your kids. They're our kids. You do not take our kids and just do whatever you want with them. You can't take our kids, load them up in a bus, walk them down the street or wherever, and take them to do whatever you want to do with them. They're not your children. They're our children. You have to have our permission with anything you do with our child. This is just completely unacceptable. They are completely out of control. And everybody involved in that needs to be fired. Now, this is happening all over Washington State. I mean, all over the Northwest, especially. It's happening all over the country, but mostly, Washington and Oregon. This is really happening a lot. I do know there was an incident down in Portland where kindergarten teachers made up a bunch of protest signs, handed them to kindergartners, and walked them out to the edge of the school property by the fence to hold up their little protest signs as a protest is marching by. Like, these kindergartners really have any clue what signs they're holding up or what they're even out there for. They're just doing what their teacher told them. This is where indoctrination starts. That kindergarten teacher needs to be fired immediately. You don't march kindergartners out there. They have no clue what's going on. Protesting is an adult thing. And for that matter, all of these students. That's why teachers don't push their personal beliefs on our students, because they don't know the complexity of the issues that they're even having them go out there and protest. They just tell them their little side and they take them out there. It's not your job to instruct our children on morals or beliefs. It's our job as parents, not the teachers' jobs. Okay? It's complete and utter bullshit. It's communist indoctrination. That's what they do. Read the Communist Manifesto. That's, it says this is how we take over a country. And it says right in there, take over the educational institutions. And they have in Washington State. They have across most of the country. But particularly in states like ours, it's completely out of control. They're totally indoctrinating our children, and they should not be in charge of our children. If you have children in schools in Washington, take them out now. If you don't want them to be good little collectivists and communists, get them out of there now. They're out of control. They're doing what they want with our kids. And they think they know best. And they don't even care about the law. They're taking children off of school property without even getting permission slips. And, you know, a vast majority of these older students who are going out on these protests, they're not doing it because they believe in what the protest is about. They're doing it because they're just like any of us were when we were kids, right? Teacher says I can leave class and go out there in the streets and hang out and yell and scream. Hey, I'd rather do that than sit in class. So they're out there having fun. They don't care. They don't believe in it. These teachers just do it to stroke their own ego. The kids are only out there because they don't have to sit in the classroom, the majority of them. But there are a lot of them who are falling for the indoctrination, and that's why we need to take control of our schools back. But right now, the way they just gutted the Parents' Bill of Rights, good luck with that in Washington State. There needs to be some accountability for these actions that have been taken in the last couple of weeks. So I urge all of you to go to your school board meetings and tell them this isn't acceptable. Contact all your legislators. Demand that these teachers and these administrators be held accountable for their actions. And if my kid was in a protest where they took him off school property, I'd be filing a lawsuit against the state right now. I would. They did not have permission to take those children off of school grounds, and they did. I would be filing lawsuits against the school, the district, and the state. That's just me. But in the most disturbing issue I have, and this is more centered on parental rights. There is a mother of a Puyallup school district high school student who has been missing. Let me start this over. The mother of a Puyallup high school district high school student has been missing for more than 2 months, provided emotional testimony at the state capitol Tuesday in Olympia. Okay, her daughter's been missing for 2 months. Jody Holman's daughter, Eleanor, who is 16, ran away, and according to Holman, the school district facilitated her daughter's decision to sever guardianship without her parents' knowledge. Okay? Holman spoke before a crowd of about 300 people Tuesday, gathered on the Capitol steps in a rally organized by Let's Go Washington, the political group behind 2 initiatives to the legislature concerning the protection of girls' sports and parental rights. According to the mother, she has multiple intersecting mental health needs, but the school and Washington State narrowed their focus to gender alone. So this girl has all kinds of emotional, mental, emotional issues. And when the parents were working with the school, they only cared about the gender issue that was involved. That's what the school concentrated on. They didn't care that the whole gender issue was part of a much bigger mental concerns with this child. They just concentrated on that. Okay. They narrowed their focus to gender alone, sidelining the whole scope of what she was experiencing, said Holman during a Senate listening session organized by Republican lawmakers. Without our knowledge or involvement, steps were taken leading our daughter to believe our home was an unsafe environment. So basically what the school did, what they always do, is they told this child that, since her parents were concerned that she was dealing with all this gender stuff, that it was not a safe environment for her to be in, and she needed to be out of that house. The school actually, according to this parent, told her that and convinced her that she needed to leave home because it was too dangerous for her being there, because her parents were concerned about her health issues and the whole gender question thing. Okay. The distraught mother shared that the Puyallup School District included her and her husband in several meetings initially. So initially, the school was working with the parents, where they were led to believe their concerns as parents were on the same page with the district. So the school district sat down and talked to the parents and said, oh yeah, we agree with your concerns. We're going to work together to try to sort this out. But that's not what they did. Instead, at each stage, we acted as engaged parents seeking coordination and support. At no point were our parents' rights terminated or limited by core finding of unfitness, said Holman. So, at no time was anything ever officially done to terminate the parental rights or even bring into question that their house was not a healthy environment legally for that child to be in. Instead, The school went behind their backs, and talked to the daughter and convinced her she needed to leave home because they weren't supporting her gender ideology garbage. And they actually helped her disappear from the family home, and they are hiding her whereabouts from the family at this time. And that falls in line with some new laws that were passed that allow the schools to hide things like that from the parents, which is why we need the Parents' Bill of Rights. That's why it's so imperative that we get the Parents' Bill of Rights initiative approved this year and put back into law, so schools can't hide this kind of stuff from parents. That they can't work behind the parents' back to support kids doing things their parents don't want them to do. This is reckless. This is asinine. And it's completely ignoring parents' right to their own child. The state thinking they know better what's better for your child than you do. This is how far the state has gone. This is total communist indoctrination. They're taking your rights as a parent away and saying the state knows better about your children than you. That they're their children. The state thinks they own your children. This is what communist countries do. Washington is completely communist. Washington school system is completely communist indoctrination institution. If you have children and they're in public schools, take them out now. And as I stated before, if you're on the right side of history, if you're for common sense, go to your school board meetings. We got to do like we did, 4 years ago. Go to your school board meetings. Raise hell with them. Contact your legislators. Go to testify against this kind of crap in Olympia. Tell them no more. Our children are ours, not the state's. And we need all this communist bullshit out of our schools. Your job in the schools is to teach reading, writing, history, basic stuff, how to live, that you're going to need to live and get a job. Not political ideology, not your personal LGBTQ plus IA yada 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 bullshit. Let kids be kids. And if they have feelings about gender issues when they're 18, they can make up their own mind. Until that point, let them be kids. You damn sure don't have the right to take them to protests. You don't have the right to take our kids to protests. It's happening all over the state. So wake up, Washington. Quit voting for Democrats and get these communists out of our government and out of our schools. You do that by being active and by voting. That's all I have for tonight, as usual. You want to know more about us, who we are, what we stand for, what we do, you can go to our website, which is wa3%.org, wa3%.org. We also have our charity, Boots on the Home Ground, which helps veterans and communities in need in Washington State, which is bothg.org. That's all I have for this episode of Behind the Wire. Good night.